Alright, so now we're going to have a look at a more complex example of a blend shape, and we're also going to be taking a look at the primary use for blend shapes, and that's to create facial expressions for our characters. Now what you'll see here is on this basic head that I've got a blink and a browse up shape already applied, and before we go ahead and demonstrate what they do, I want to first turn on my wireframe on shaded. Okay, and this is so that we can see what happens to the topology of the character's face as we turn these shapes on and off. And the reason that I want to demonstrate this is that one of the most common mistakes that people make when they first start out with their blend shapes is that they simply take a shape and move it in one direction, or they'll take vertices and move them in one direction, as opposed to taking into account that underneath the skin of a character there's bone and muscle. It's better to make your shapes slide around a head as opposed to just moving abruptly in one direction. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to go ahead and zoom into the eye here, and if you pay close attention to the tissue above the eye, I'll move it round to about 3/4 so you can see this a little bit better, and I turn on the blink, you'll see that that area of skin stretches out. What you might see on some blend shapes is that the whole area just shifts down, okay, when the eye blinks. So it's very important to take into account that skin stretches and compresses when it moves. And another thing to point out is that as the blink is turned on, the upper lid moves down more than our lower lid will move up. And that's in keeping with the way that the human body actually works. I'm now going to go ahead and select my character's face, and I'm just going to duplicate that by using the Control-D hotkey. You can of course go up to Edit and down to Duplicate if you want. I'm then going to take that and move it out to the side. And then, once it's over to the side, I'm going to press 1 on my keyboard to take off the Smooth Mesh Preview. It's always a good idea when you're doing any kind of modeling in Maya to make sure that Smooth Mesh Preview is turned off, as you can sometimes get unexpected results when you're modeling in that mode, okay, just due to the way that Maya averages out the space between our verts. So before we continue on, I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and go down to Assign Existing Material and choose Lambert 1, okay, just to grey it out so it's a bit easier to actually see. The next thing that I want to address is where our target shape that we've created here is actually sitting in our hierarchy. So if I go into Window and bring up my outliner, if I was to select this head, you'll notice that the Sleepy Frank group is highlighted, and there's our shape here. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that and call it Smile Shape, and then I want to use my middle mouse button to click and drag that into this targets folder. It's always a good idea to save out any of your target shapes into a separate folder in your outliner, just to keep things a little cleaner. So with that done, I can go ahead and close down the outliner. We're now going to have a look at how to go ahead and model our new facial shape. So the first thing I want to do is select the character and go into the tool settings, and I want to make sure that down at the bottom I have my reflection set to on and that the axis is set to X. And this is just going to allow us to go in, and as we select one of our verts or an edge or a face, it's going to be reflected on the other side of our character. And what you'll also notice here is that I have Maya's soft selection on. So if I was to press the B key on the keyboard, so B for brush, you can see that I can either move just this edge, or if I press B, I can move a selection of vertices around that edge, okay, which is based on a fall off. Now to adjust that fall off, if you hold down the B key and move your mouse from left to right, you'll increase the influence or the radius of it. And this is very, very useful when you're creating blend shapes, because it allows you to create a very natural looking effect as the geometry is moved around. Okay, so it actually helps you create what we're looking for, that effect of skin sliding over bone and muscle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of my channel control here and my blend shape window, just to give us a little bit more room to work with, and we're going to go ahead and block out a smile shape. So if I jump into my front view here, I'm going to grab some of the verts around the mouth, double check that I haven't selected anything on the back end or the back side of the head, go back into the front view, and we're just going to move these up, alright, and then move them out ever so slightly. You'll notice that we get a little bit of an error in the middle of the mesh, but that's fine, we can always fix that a little bit later on. And we just want to stretch out the lips a little bit, Then jump into our perspective view and just move them back. Okay, I like to have my original head in as a reference so that I can see exactly where I'm moving the lips to, because you don't want to move the stuff too far back as it can start to look overly comical, unless of course that's the effect that you're going for. So once I've got the lips in place, I'm going to go ahead and take the character's nose, lower the radius of my soft selection, and just rotate that down slightly. Because thing to bear in mind is that your nose is mostly cartilage, so it tends to react to the muscles in the face more than you would think. Okay, so when you do a full smile, the end of your nose will actually bend down slightly. I'm just going to exaggerate this a little bit more, just for the purposes of the demonstration. Another key area to look out for is your character's chin. Round about this area here is going to stay pretty much solid, and the skin on the lower part of the chin will move up, okay, as it stretches round the bone. Other key areas are the cheeks. Your skin's going to be pushed up the way towards the eyes, and because I've got reflection on, I don't need to worry about this not being duplicated onto the other side. Now in some cases, for more advanced facial expressions, you will want to split up the smile for the left and right, as it allows you to have a little bit more control over the way your character actually moves. So the next thing I want to do is jump back into the perspective view and have a quick look at the smile. So that's working fine at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the soft selection and go in and fix some of the areas in the middle of the face. As long as you're aware that the soft selection and the mirror function can do this to the verts in the middle of the face, it's no big deal. Okay, as long as you go in and fix it. So we'll go ahead and turn our soft selection back on, and I'm just going to grab the corners of the mouth and lower the radius ever so slightly, and then just start to push that back. We'll move it up and we'll just rotate it to start to get the smile effect. We can turn off our wireframe unshaded here and then just turn on the smooth mesh preview to see how we're doing. Okay, that's looking not bad. We're getting some quite tight pinching around the corners, so we can go in and fix that in a second. The other area that I want to talk about is the area under the nose. As you actually smile, this is going to puff out ever so slightly, so we're going to go back in to our soft selection and just start to move that out. We can move it in as well. So I'm going to go ahead and move these back ever so slightly just to accentuate the smile. And the next thing I want to show you is how to fix any weird pinching that you get as you go through the process of creating your blend shape, because you might find that things get a little bit messy, particularly when you're just starting out with your blend shapes. So if we go into our polygon menu set and go to Mesh and down to the Sculpt Geometry tool, and we open up its tool settings, if we select the fourth operation along, we have a relax brush, and if we scroll down to the bottom, we can turn on reflection for its stroke as well. So now as I draw over my character's mesh, you can see that it starts to relax and average out the verts across the face. And this is just going to stop us from getting any strange artifacts when our character is smoothed or when we actually turn on our blend shape. So those are the main aspects of the modelling of the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video for the time being, and when we come back we're going to have a look at the final shape. Okay, so we're back, and as you can see I've went ahead and finished off the smile blend shape, and I've put a little bit more work into it, and you can see how natural that looks. Okay, but based on what we were looking at before, you can see all the key aspects that I was talking about. You can see that the nose is pointing down the way. The upper lip area is puffed out slightly. The areas above the cheeks are all puffed out as well, and the skin's been compressed up towards the eye. We've also got a little bit of movement in the eye area as well. You can see that we have nice natural creases in the corners of the mouth, as well as down the sides of the face. The chin area is pretty much static apart from the lower skin on the chin, which has been stretched up. And the lips are also thinned out as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my blend shape window here, and I'm going to go across to the smile, which I've already applied. And then as I turn this on and off, you can see how that affects our character's face. And if I turn on the wireframe here, you can see what I mean by this. So you can really see how the topology helps our actual blend shape, okay? And exactly how I've moved that to create the shape that I wanted. So what we're going to be looking at in the next lesson is how to actually edit these shapes that we've applied to our character's head.